All right, guys, for the next step, what we need is to get set up before we start. And there's a lot involved here. This is a crucial step because it's going to determine the structure of your project. So I've got my legs here. They've been tapered. I've got the nice little taper put into them. And I've laid them back down so I don't get confused, just to make sure they all are where they're supposed to be, and they are. So I got my legs. I've got my apron panels that have the pocket holes in the back side. I've got my pocket hole screws. That's a pocket hole screw right there. It's got a square head, and it's an 1.25" screw, and it's specially designed to work in these pocket holes that I made over on the pocket hole machine. So these panels are all the same. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm gonna grab one. The other thing that I need is a piece of, this is just a piece of 1/4" scrap. The reason it's 1/4" is because it's gonna help me. It's the same size as my overhang of my trim piece, so that makes that nice and flush. And I'll show you how we use that here in a second. And then I just need some glue, as well as an impact driver. So I've got all the things set up. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to install side A. What I wanna do is I wanna put my scrap piece of 1/4" material right there on the table and set it down so that that is solid across. If I didn't have that in there, it would be wobbly and it'd be crooked. I don't want that. I wanna put that in there, and I wanna be able to press down nice and solid and flush. So then I'm gonna take my leg A, let's start with A, and I am going to see if I can get it to where you can see it. Make sure that this part right here is flush, and then I'll turn it this way. I think it'll be easier for me. I'm going to insert a screw into my pocket hole. And if you pay attention to what my left hand is doing here, I'm pushing down just about as hard as I can with my thumb. I ensure that this top is flush up here. That's really crucial, and it's crucial that I'm pushing down. You're working with a partner, so have them push down while you screw, but we've got to make sure that stays down and flat, and then slowly, remember that I can pull the trigger slowly. I don't have to go full speed. I can pull the trigger slowly without losing any power on an impact driver. So I'm going to get it in the head of that screw, and I'm going to drive it in nice and slow. Get another one in the hole. Put my impact driver in. Drive it all the way in. And what should happen is that this, it's called a reveal, but that reveal stays 1/4 inch the whole way. And as long as this piece was sandwiched between there and the table, it stayed 1/4 inch, and I'm good to go. So now I want to do the other side. I didn't glue. So I didn't glue. So what I'm going to do is what you should do to begin with is do that same thing again, but just apply a nice little film of glue. And so I don't have a whole lot of squeeze out. I like to, just like we did when we laminated the legs, make sure I've got a nice film going all the way across. So then just repeat the process I just showed you. Slap that on there. Press down again. Put the screw back in. Should be easier this time because I've kind of got pre-drilled holes. That glue is important. That's actually going to be stronger than the screws when it finally dries. So now I'll do side B. Let's see here. How do I show you that? Will that work? That'll work. Don't forget my spacer. Put it in. Grab my B leg. And you'll notice here that the side that I'm attaching the panel to of the leg is the same side that I put the taper in. It's just instead of being this edge with the 1/4 circle, it's the edge away from it. So I'm going to make sure that I have one of these lines coming through the side that I'm attaching my side panel to. So I'm going to try not to forget to glue this time. Put a little glue on here. Smooth it out. Put that spacer back where it belongs. And again, being flush is really important right there, so my top will sit nicely. And then I'm going to take my pocket hole screw, put it in the hole. This one's a little harder because this leg's in my way now, but I can still get the right angle and drive it in. Next pocket hole screw goes in, and again, you're working with a partner, so it's possible for you to use their assistance to push down the board. And you want to tighten up until you see just a little bit of glue squeeze out if possible, or at least no crack right there, so that we end up with this panel right here. Wipe away any glue that might be sticking out. So that's panel A and B. Now I'm going to go do the same thing for panel C and D, and then I'll show you how to join those two together. All right, so I got my partner Joshua here because at this point, up to this point, a lot of the stuff you could have done with just one set of hands, but at this point you've got to use both your hands and a partner's hands. So I've got my sides A and B, that's the front panel, and I've got C and D, that's the back panel. And now it gets a little trickier as I join them together. So they're going to be joined together where A connects to D and B connects to C. So again, I've got my 1/4 inch scrap spacer, and I'm just going to connect this one here first. So I'm going to apply my glue, same way I've done on the other two. This time I got Joshua, who's got big strong hands, and he's going to be pushing down on this leg, trying not to let it move. Now I've pre-drilled these, so this should go in pretty easily. My job is to push this down to make sure that top edge is flush, and then to drive the screw. Don't overdrive these screws, because if you spin them in the holes, they'll have no gripping power. So go slowly. When you hear the impact start, or maybe it won't start like that one and it almost started to spin, you want to stop. As soon as you get glue squeeze out there, you know you're good. Now here's where it gets a little trickier. I'm going to turn this up. I'm going to glue this side. Same way as before. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. Joshua, put that in there for me. There you go. And then, let's see, let's make sure I'm right. Yeah, B is connecting to C. So I'm making sure my top is flush. Joshua's going to hold again on that edge. It's all right. And you'll see that it's pretty tight with the impact driver with this long bit, but it does fit. Drive slowly, and it'll snug it up real tight. One more here. Good, so that's 3 out of 4 sides, and at this point I look like this. It's starting to look like a table. And now probably the most challenging side. We'll see how this goes. What do you need to be able to see it? Can you see from there? Take my last side piece, use that scrap. Yeah, this is going to get tricky. I'm going to have to glue both sides initially, because I'm not going to be able to get the glue bottle in there. So this might get a little messy too, but if we can get this one in before the glue dries, we'll be solid. So go ahead and glue both sides of this last apron panel. If a little gets on the table, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to set it back in there on top of that scrap. Checking for flush at the top. Joshua's going to hold that. Grab a pocket screw. It goes in pretty smoothly. If when you screw the screw in, it starts to push the leg out, just back the screw back out, push down again, and go in again. You might have to go in 2 or 3 times in order to make yourself a hole, but it will go. So even if it pushes away, it's going to go. So there's that. Let's turn around. Now you'll notice here that because of the nature of the wood, it wants to be a little out of whack. That means that we got a lot to do on this one. That means we're going to have to force it to be square. That means we're going to have to maybe pull this bottom leg in. So Joshua's probably going to be working at pulling that in as well as trying to hold that. Let's spin it around so he can see. And just communicate with each other, because I can see this leg better than Joshua can. So hold on one second. I'm going to come from the top side. Get that edge flush. We'll get the top end first. Yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, that was a tricky one, but it goes. All right, last one. Right here. And snug it up until you get that little bit of glue squeeze out. And then while the glue is still wet, I'm going to look around and check all of my joints to make sure that that screw actually did tighten things up. And it looks like I'm good. How do I look over there, Joshua?
Good over here.
So those joints are nice and tight. If they're not tight, go back in, drive those screws a little bit further. And there's the base of your table. Looking pretty solid, looking pretty square. Now we're going to move on to the tiling of the top and the finished trim work.